Today I have a left-wing libertarian socialist content creator named Vaush, who is a popular commentator talking about AOC and the Iron Dome. And there's another topic that we'll get to momentarily. I'm gonna criticize him. Let's go.
The mainstream media isn't talking about it very much, but I'm afraid people online are. People are mad at AOC. Very, very mad at AOC. Congress is rubber stamping another, $500 million to go towards Iron Dome spending over there in Israel to further shield the country from the consequences of their warring behavior. And Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced an amendment that would have cut that funding from the broader bill here. Marjorie Taylor Greene blasted her Republican and Democratic colleagues early Friday after all 6 of her amendments to the House's Defense Appropriations Bill failed. Allocates about $832 billion in funding for DoD programs. Greene's amendment to cut funding for the Israeli Cooperative Program, an agreement through which the U.S. provides Israel $500 million for programs for missile defense, was spiked in a 6-422 vote. The people who voted in favor of Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendments: Thomas Massie, expected, libertarian. Al Green, we like him. Summer Lee, we like her. Ilhan Omar, we like her. Rashida Tlaib, we like her. That's great. And of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's the 6. Where's AOC? AWOL. She actually posted on Twitter to defend herself from the wave of hate she got for not voting for this. Deserved hate, in my opinion. Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment does nothing to cut off offensive aid to Israel nor end the flow of U.S. munitions being used in Gaza. Of course, I voted against it. What it actually does is cut off defensive Iron Dome capacities while allowing the actual bombs killing Palestinians to continue. I have long stated that I do not believe that adding to the death count of innocent victims to this war is constructive to its end. That is a simple and clear difference of opinion that has long been established. I remain focused on cutting the flow of U.S. munitions that are being used to perpetuate the genocide in Gaza. If only the vote was 421-7? Yes. If only very popular politicians who have a huge outreach were willing to plant their feet down and take definitive stands on these issues. Yes, I agree. She's been like this for a while. Yeah, she voted present on, we saw that on stream. We saw it live. She voted.
I want to let Vaush make his point, so I don't want to jump down his throat too early. However, Stephen had this point, and I actually thought it was pretty good, which is effectively like, let's say that we passed this. Let's say that we passed this, and instead of, let's say we cut off all aid, but specifically we cut off Iron Dome aid, and the Iron Dome gets overwhelmed and bombed. That's going to give Israel even more license, because that's the only way that Palestinians can lash out against Israel. That's the only way that Hezbollah can lash out against Israel, is through the missiles. And so if the missiles land in Israel and they're ineffective, then Israel can kind of treat the incoming missiles like the weather. They can be like, what are you going to do? They're pissed off. They're sending in missiles, right? However, if ballistic missiles start hitting, or like homemade rockets start hitting like Israeli daycares and random civilian buses filled with people and grandma and all that bullshit, you think Israel isn't going to use that as a pretext to start murdering the shit out of people? I know that the lefty argument is going to be like, oh, they're already murdering the shit out of people, but there will be infinitely more sympathy for Israel if you eliminate the defensive missile system and, Israeli civilians just start getting pasted by incoming Hamas and Hezbollah rockets. 100%. So yeah, like I actually think this is a pretty stupid hill to die on, but whatever.
Voted present on Iron Dome funding. She originally voted no. Then Pelosi had a talking to with her. She came out crying and voted present rather than no. And then later in an interview, she said she regretted that vote, but wished she had voted yes rather than present. Because the line that she's taken or has been willing to place her feet down on is that she will always support fewer civilian casualties. So she's okay with Iron Dome support to Israel, which is ridiculous, of course, because the continued support to Israel's Iron Dome gives them credence to continue doing what they're doing. The fact that Israel faces no consequences whatsoever for their constant warring in the region, their escalation, their attacks, is part of the problem, Like, you don't
Yeah, you know, if only they suffered more October 7th, 2023s, then Israel would probably calm down, right? Is that your line of argumentation, Vaush? Because that sounds pretty counterintuitive and stupid. So the fact, like, did Israel not fight in 67 because they were getting attacked and they were suffering consequences? Did they not suffer consequences in 1973 when they were getting attacked? Did they not suffer consequences on October 7, 2023? And what happened immediately after they were attacked? Did they calm down and go, you know what? We're probably getting attacked as a result of our own behavior. We really need to look at our policy and see if we can moderate. That way we stop getting attacked. Is that what Israel did? Or did they escalate to the 10,000th degree because they believed they were in an existential conflict? And then they just started beating the shit out of their neighbors like a gorilla versus 100 men. If we look at history, Vaush, which one happened?
Don't give a bulletproof vest to a school shooter before sending him out because you don't want him to get hurt. You know,
to a school shooter. Give it. That's amazing. Wow. So what's actually being said is we don't want Israel to suffer endless civilian casualties from incoming rockets because the United States didn't provide aid, because dead Israeli civilians will lead to more Israeli military excursions and more destabilization and more violence and more death. And Vaush has simplified this to don't give a school shooter of like a bulletproof vest. So hold on. So in Vaush's analogy, let's just run with it for the sake of argumentation. Was 1,400 dead Israelis or 1,200 dead Israelis on October 7, 2023? Was that just bullying, right? Was that just the Palestinians bullying the school shooter? You know, was the rape and the murder and the executions and the beheadings, was that just like, some lighthearted bullying that the school shooter should not have taken to heart so hard? This is why these fucking analogies, this is why like lefty, the 80 IQ analysis is fucking stupid as shit. This is actually some dog shit, some dog water analysis. And this is why you don't want to be in a hug box. Okay. This is terrible. Terrible analysis, Vaush. Terrible.
you don't give conditional aid to Nazi Germany, but only air defense. You know, you're only giving them flak cannons so that, listen, okay, you don't support what they're doing, invading the Soviet Union, invading France, invading the United Kingdom, but you don't want German civilians to get hurt, so you'll give them some flak cannons so the bombers can't reach Dresden. You know, I don't buy this. She's always been like this. Yeah, but like more so than ever, attention is being paid to these critical issues. And I have no idea how you can expect her to lead the left when she's willing to place her like you're giving you're signing off on Iron Dome funding to a genocidal ethno-state. It's a pretty bad. The majority of Democrats already dislike Israel. For people who like AOC, those no.
I'm sorry, I'm eating my breakfast, Sammy. Sorry, I'm pulling up a poll. Excuse me. Okay, the shift. Just 12% of Dem voters sympathize more with Israelis than Palestinians. Okay, let's see how they phrase this. This week, Quinnipiac released a poll surveying U.S. opinion in a number of issues. One of those issues was the Middle East. U.S. voters were asked whether their sympathies lie with Palestinians or Israelis. 37% said the Israelis, 32% said the Palestinians, and 31% did not offer an opinion. Excuse me, you do not have a 60, the way that this is written, you would assume from the title, but I'm not Hassan Piker, I'm not a fucking idiot, so I read more than the title. You would assume based off of the title that they surveyed 100 Democrats and 88 of them said they didn't like the state of Israel. That's how you would read this title. But if you actually read the sentences in the first paragraph, 37% said they sympathize more with the Israelis, what was it? 32% said they sympathize more with the Palestinians, and 31% said they didn't offer an opinion. These people don't give a shit, which means that it's effectively a 50-50 split in the Democratic Party for the people who do care about whether or not they sympathize with Israel. Vaush just read the headline. He didn't read this because, once again, leftists are fucking lazy. I'm sorry for cussing so much today, but it's very, very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Numbers are probably even more severe. For people who really like AOC, it's probably like 95% of them think that Israel's behavior is unjustifiable. I have no idea why she's like this. Didn't Bernie also always vote like this? Yeah, I wonder how much of it is like Bernie being a bad influence on each other, or them having bad political instincts when it comes to opposing the Democratic Party from within the left, you know? Because the feeling that I get, and I had this feeling especially with the that disastrous Instagram live where she argued that Biden shouldn't drop out, where she was acting as though she had insider info, but she didn't, because at the time Pelosi and other insiders were working to oust Biden. Stuff like that makes me think that she doesn't really know how to politically maneuver within the Democrats. She's been given the understanding, she's been given the impression that if she waits her turn and plays the game, she can make compromises to buy power and favors, and then use that power and those favors in the pursuit of something like meaningful and transformative.
I think she's probably pursuing that agenda fairly aggressively, and I think it's entirely possible. You have to understand the optics of AOC have totally changed in the past 5 to 10 years, where because she's making these, instead of just popping off on Twitter like she used to, this is a pretty like calm, considered perspective. And so these sanitized corporate politispeak or whatever, obviously a lot of people don't like it because it's viewed as inauthentic, but she needed some political tempering. I think that AOC will be relevant in Democratic politics because as long as she doesn't lose her seat, she has the kind of name recognition that will let her be a power broker. So she can be the leader of the Progressive Caucus. I don't even know if I'm using the word caucus right, but she can be a power broker in the Progressive Caucus where she could probably get whoever Bernie's successor is, the squad, even though it's not as powerful as it used to be. She can get Maxwell Frost. She can get Ro Khanna, she can get all those people. She can probably do a joint statement with those people because of her political clout and influence and say, hey, this block of 5 to 10 people, this is the agenda we want. This is what we want to execute. This is what we think is fair. This is how we're negotiating with the rest of the Democratic caucus and a few Republican defectors. And I think that she has the clout and influence to do that. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. It's actually Vaush's, for me, this is crabs in a bucket mentality. This is lefties being too far left and not understanding electoralism for the 5,000th time. Check it in with chat because I parasocially love you. Grassroots 10 says, as your local Zion Lion, I'm about to have a stroke. Yeah, comparing them to a school shooter in Nazi Germany is fucking crazy. But, you know, what can I say? I'll deal with an LB chat so I can demonstrate why momentarily. Bakar Buriti says, ignore all the Destiny criticism, lol. The views don't lie. They love you screaming at him. True. LB says, whoa, so what is tit for tat, Connor? Stolen land, 60,000 dead, 17K children, open air prison, second-class citizens versus 12,000 dead civilians or 1,200 dead civilians. Is that self-defense? I don't know, LB. This is once again where like lefties have dog shit analysis. If the Palestinians had killed 60,000 Israelis, would that make you feel better? Right? So if Israelis were more scared and in more materially deprived conditions, would that make it morally better? Right? Because let's address this one at a time. With the 60K dead, that's over a war of 3 years. Nazi Germany exterminated 6 million people over 3 or 4 years. So the numbers are way off on the dead. 17,000 children. The civilian to combatant ratio, because 20,000 of those people are allegedly combatants. So 20,000 dead combatants. That ratio is super low for modern conflict in urban areas. Open air prison. I see propaganda all the time showing pictures of Gaza before the invasion and how beautiful it was. So was it an open air prison, or was it a beautiful Mediterranean Riviera, before invasion? Seems like we have some conflicting propaganda on this one. Second class citizens, I'll just agree to, versus 1,200 dead civilians. I already made my point. So yeah. What I want Israel to do is rebuild Gaza and turn it back over to the Gazans and do it in a way that's intelligent, where you have combat engineers, clear all the munitions, knock down the buildings, rebuild the water infrastructure, rebuild the electric infrastructure, and then move people in who have been screened and vetted into neighborhoods as they are built. And then I would like it to be intentionally built in such a way that there's economic zones, there's commercial zones, and there's residential zones, and then effectively give Gazans like a high standard of living so they stop being terrorist pieces of shit, and then give them firm borders. That's what I would want Israel to do. But without an international peacekeeping force coming in order to enforce that vision, I don't think it's going to happen. What kind of breakfast Sammy, Connor? Somebody asks. It was a sausage, egg, and cheese McMuffin. My wife had a early morning doctor's appointment with one of the boys, and so she got me a sausage, egg, and cheese, and it was fucking delicious.
Unfortunately, it seems like that's not happening. It seems like she's making concessions for nothing. She's not in the inside. She never will be on the inside, because the inside is like a freak demon cult of ghouls who exists to keep the Democratic Party ineffectual and corpo driven. Right? I don't know. It seems like she doesn't know what she's doing, because she's not getting anything. For what it's worth, it looks like the MTG amendment would have simply deallocated the money from the Iron Dome and allowed Israel to use it for whatever. Strike $500 million in funding for Israeli cooperative programs, which are defensive systems like the Iron Dome. So the argument then is that the $500 million would have been used to other things then. Pyramid research, development, test, evaluation, defense-wide, $500 million should be for the Israeli cooperative programs, provided that of this amount, 60,000.
Unork says you're going to lose political influence by cussing so much. You're actually right, Unork. That's what my mom said, and I agree with my mom. I'm just a former Marine, so it's very tough for me to not use profanity. Also, I have like, have you seen this this meme of the veiny forehead kid? So this is me when I don't get to say ableist or racial slurs for too long. So profanity is the way that I get around saying ableist or racial slurs, is I just drop the F-bomb every other sentence. And then as a result, I'm able to like wait to go into a room and then say racial and ableist slurs. Like I can scream it into a pillow at the end of stream. So, you got to pick your battles, right?
Thousands should be. Yeah, this is what would have been struck from the bill. I feel like she should have included this in her response then. She dropped a far longer response on her site. Okay, then let me take a look. Maybe I can be moved over on this. I don't think that I'm going to, I don't think I'm getting away from this without criticizing her, but I do appreciate the opportunity to do so in a more nuanced way. Oh my God, the lefty meme. And it's got a signal.
Let's see the other lefty meme. So AOC wrote a very long letter, which is too many words. Let's see if Vaush fulfills the other lefty stereotype where it's so long that he doesn't read it.
Sure. Both of these things are true. Yeah, well, I mean, it still falls in line with the sort of broader tendency on her part, like her defense of the Iron Dome funding specifically in a, well, it protects civilians kind of way, has always rubbed me the wrong way. But if this bill only struck like the requirement that the 500 mil be used for the Iron Dome and didn't have anything to do with like the money itself, then that seems like a pretty fair counter argument, no? Yesterday, the House called to the floor a rushed $1 billion supplemental military funding bill for the Iron Dome defense system. I want to be clear with the community that I am opposed to this bill, but
why don't you read it loud enough so your audience can hear?
Ultimately cast a wait, this is the old one. The president.
Oh, he's being too lazy and he can't read it. Oh,
vote. Wait. Hold on. Is this the older one? I think she voted present again. Voted no on the amendment, present on the bill. Gotcha. Wait, why present on the bill? My job as your representative is first and foremost serve with transparency. No, she voted no on the bill. Okay, you just linked what I'm already looking at. Then what did she vote present on? What does it mean to vote present? It means you're a pussy, basically. So
true. Dreamcast says, but as I said yesterday, you can't force Palestinians to think they deserve the whole land. Well, yeah, that's the problem, right? So the problem is at least as far as I understand, a substantive portion of the Palestinian population doesn't want a two-state solution. And I think Israel doesn't necessarily want a two-state solution either, but they just want to slowly ethnically cleanse the territory. What is it? Palestinian support for two-state solution. 40%. So declining support, particularly among youth. Recent polls indicate a significant decline in Palestinian support for the two-state solution, with some showing it at 40% or even lower at 24%, down from 59% in 2012. This trend is particularly pronounced among young Palestinians, with only 16% of those aged 15 to 25 expressing support, compared to 34% of those aged 46 and older. Well, I would run a new poll after they got their shit kicked in. I would run a new poll for, well, you just got your ass kicked. So how do you feel about a two-state solution now? But it looks like it's dropped precipitously over the past decade. It was higher than 50. And now it's, it used to be at 75. Oh, but these are Arab Israelis. So these are people who are already within the territory. And then what's the green? Total. Okay. Then Palestinian. Yeah. So anyways, the point is that at some point it was majority popular, but not popular enough to get done. And then over time, it's eroded to the point that, 24 to 40% of people support a two-state solution. Not great. Former Marine. I thought Marine was a forever title. Yeah, Marines say that because they want you to be a part of the cult forever. Listen, do you know what Marines can do? Marines can do between 12 and 20 pull-ups. Marines run a minimum of 3 miles at 8-minute miles, and most of them run 6 to 7-minute miles, or realistically 7 to 8-minute miles. But they run 7-minute miles on average. Marines do 100 crunches in 2 minutes. I could probably still do that. And Marines carry heavy weights from point A to point B. I haven't done any of that stuff since 2010, and I haven't been able to do any of that stuff physically probably for 5 to 10 years now. So no, I'm a Marine psychologically and nothing else.
What did she vote president? If you're saying she voted no on the bill, that note is 2021, ain't it? Yeah, isn't this the old one? I wish there was a date on here. It's absolutely the old one. Yeah, because they're talking about a $1 billion supplemental military funding bill. That's not what this is. The most recent press release on our website is from July 11th. Okay, then who was the first person who linked that, saying that it was from the recent vote? What are you doing? You really went and dug up something from 2021, 4 years ago? Did you do that on purpose? Jesus. The House passed the overall defense funding bill in a 221 to 209 vote. 3 Republicans opposed at 5. So she voted no on the bill, not present. Unless she was one of the 5 Democrats who joined the GOP lawmakers, which, no, that seems unlikely to me. Yeah, she voted no. So she voted no on the amendment, no on the bill. So enough with the present and the yes bullshit, okay? Jesus. So
yeah, listen to this. Hearshot says my 3 mile was 1450. Think about that. What is that? 5 minutes? 5-minute miles? 14. How do I do 50? It's like 5 out of whatever. Let's just do 1450. Divide by 3. You're doing 5. Well, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be 5-minute miles. Dude, if you're running like a 455, that is like, yeah, 455 times 3. Not quite. 1450. 10 seconds. That's a 457, man. That's a 457. 457 is fucking impressive. I'm trying to think of the fastest one. All right, hold on. There were some 4-minute mile dudes, and they pissed me off so bad. Let me think about this. Fastest 3-mile run. Sorry, I know this isn't that. The fastest time for a 3-mile run is 12:51, achieved by Joshua Cheptegei in the realm of high school cross country. Leo Young of Newbury Park High did a 13:37. So those are the fastest dudes on the planet. Absolutely insane. But there would be randomly, like we would have some East African guys, you know, in the Marine Corps, and their names would be like Achebe or Swahili or something like that. They would have like crazy African names, but they would look just like this. And they would run half marathons 5 days a week. And when we did our PT test, they would run 5-minute miles, 450s, like it was nothing. And it was absolutely infuriating. Because I was kind of built like this at the time, but I was running 8-minute miles, you know? I was running 7-minute miles on a good day, and I eventually ran a 20:30 was my fastest. So I think I ran 20:30 divided by 3, 6, 12, 18. Yeah, I ran 6-minute, 30-second miles, and I was proud of that. I worked on that for a really long time. Ugh. Fuck that.
So then we go back.
Bo Dickerson says D1 colleges are between 425 and 410 miles. That's crazy. Yeah, we all of our East African dudes, they were running like 4-minute 30 seconds, 4-minute 50 seconds, like it was nothing. Yeah. Crazy African names. It's not my fault they had crazy African names. Yeah. Who do you think you win in a boxing match, Fuentes or Steven? Steven, if he trained. Right now, if it was just straight up, just like we're going to start the boxing match, I still think Steven has the edge, but Fuentes could win if he locked in and got aggressive about it. But Steven could win just because he's such a naturally angry person. But Steven needs to channel his rage into a fitness and boxing routine. If I train Steven, Steven could beat the fuck out of Nick Fuentes. I would love to train Steven. I would love to train Steven for a boxing match against Fuentes. That would be like my life's work. That would be some of the things that I'm most proud of. It would be like being a husband, being a father, being a husband, training Steven to beat the shit out of Fuentes. That would be like top 5 achievements.
Back to not the post on the website, because this is fake news, but the argument that the
right Steven on PEDs, that would be sick. Honestly, dude, if I was Steven, hell yeah, dude, I would get like a like one of those doctors, endocrinologist doctors who like consult for PEDs, where they make sure that you don't actually mess up your heart, and they give you the exact PED cocktail to not mess up your body, and they give you the exact diet plan and the exact fitness plan. I would do that if I was Steven, and then I would retake that picture with your actual like Chad trend out, you know, body, and then I would go beat the shit out of Nick Fuentes. I think that would be awesome. Nick looks like he's in better shape. That's just because he's skinny, though. It doesn't necessarily mean he's in better shape. And I don't know if he has that killer instinct in him. I don't know if he does. We'll see. We'll see. We'll put it together.
That the only thing she struck down was the specific allocation of the $500 million to the Iron Dome, but it still would have gone towards Israeli weapons in general. What does the DSA say? It's a good statement. I'd just like some kind of official confirmation, just in case I'm missing something, because this vindicates AOC quite a bit. If so, that striking that the Marjorie Taylor Greene amendment, striking what it struck, would have just allowed the $500 million to go towards whatever Israel wanted to spend it on, as opposed to specifically the Iron Dome. That's all I'm looking for. I'm looking for an official confirmation of that. It seems like that. True, but the motives are the same now? No, I think that AOC's vote is more defensible if that's the case. Then why did the other progressive anti-Israel House members vote yes then? Well, that's what I'd like a confirmation on, because it would help me know whether there's more nuance to this. I still think that her response was bad. This is a bad response. If the only argument that she wants to make is all this does is allocated specifically to the Iron Dome, but the money goes to Israel either way, you know, if that's the only thing the amendment does, I don't see why she needs to talk about I have long stated I do not believe adding to the death count of innocent victims in this war is constructive to its end, because that sounds like a defense of providing more funding to the Iron Dome.
It does. I think she's defending the Iron Dome.
She posted more on Blue Sky. All right, hit me up. I see the misinformation machine is kicking up to support Marjorie Taylor Greene's Israel amendment. Advocates have a responsibility to be clear about what legislation does and doesn't do. Her amendment did not cut off offensive aid to Israel. We shouldn't pretend it does. My statement.
Right. Yeah. True Zealot says Nick looks better because he's skinny. Does that mean Tiny is fat? No, he's not. No. Steven has like a very normal build, but conservatism says he's skinny fat. Listen, he just needs to develop what he has, you know? Just needs to develop what he has. That's all.
On it. I voted no on the full bill, which includes this appropriation. Wait, this doesn't add any more information. This is just a screenshot. That's not more. Well, now I'm just confused about her messaging. Why wouldn't she just say, assuming this is the case, why wouldn't she just say the only thing Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment does is specifically disallocate the funding from the Iron Dome? All that money goes to Israel anyway. If I had to choose to give a genocidal ethno-state more money, I would rather it be forcibly allocated to the Iron Dome than for it to go towards more offensive weapons. There, didn't that?
No, Vaush, because most people don't know the word disallocate. Okay. I'm not trying to nitpick too much, but Vaush being like, oh yeah, her messaging is confusing, when realistically most people are idiots and they barely understand what's going on. That feels like a nitpick.
Right there? Didn't I just doesn't that just straight clear it up right now? Oh, don't make this like a rhetoric argument, you know? Consultant arc? Yeah, I'm curious. Dude, I'm not one of those, like, you know, you disagree with the politician, you drop them or whatever, because there have always been disagreements. And AOC historically has been namby-pamby on the Iron Dome bullshit, okay? And I do still think that she keeps trying to act as though she's capitulating towards the benefit. She's trying to get some kind of inside foot, you know? She's trying to get her toe in the door, and it doesn't work. But why is her messaging bad on this? I still want a confirmation on that. Does the Hill confirm or deny this? I would like some kind of official. The whole amendment text is strike section 8067, page 92, beginning on line 12 through page 93, line 13. The funds would be removed, not just given to a general fund. Well, no, wouldn't.
Bullshit. Gen X says, I don't know about donut operators. Beach pick was no better than Dusty's, in my opinion. Wrong. You're gay. Are you gay, Gen X? They shot my president in the face, so I couldn't care less if Obama gets life in prison. Hey, dumbass. Dude, all these conservative pundits, like, seriously, 80% of them are just complaining about the Obama files, which seems like it's going nowhere fast. And I like clicking on these things and posting like your guy is a pedophile meme, because everybody knows that they're fucking sweeping. Like, everyone calls them, like, half of these comments are going to be like, yeah, you're sweeping for pedophile shit. Cringe. Let's take a look at Donut Operator real quick. We need to call out Gen X for being gay. She says that Donut Operator's beach picture is not good. Nah. Like, listen, this is a bad pose. I agree with that, but this dude clearly worked out in the past. Now, maybe, is he in peak shape? Probably not. But is he in decent shape? Yeah, he's in decent shape. This is a decent shape. We can attack Donut Operator for different things. We can attack Donut Operator for being cringe, for laughing at people getting smoked by law enforcement. We can laugh about all that shit, but this is Steven's thing. And by the way, like, I'm not hating. Steven just needs to lift weights, bro. It's not whether or not he has a good basis to start. He can start. This isn't unsalvageable. He just obviously needs to chest press, curls, triceps, shoulders, forearms, and shrugs. He can get it. He has a decent foundation with which to work. He's not starting off with dog shit. And then also, you know, you got to do your legs too to keep everything balanced. But This looks like Steven has not lifted very much in his life, and he easily could. Whereas this looks like Donut used to lift. So I disagree, Gen X. Disagree.
Wouldn't the total amount being allocated to Israel still be preserved elsewhere? Like somewhere else in the bill, surely there would be an acknowledgement of the total. It would just be removing the part that says a certain amount of it has to be allocated. These details matter. I don't understand why nobody is being more clear about this. No mention of it on the Hill. Okay. DSA? What about DSA? DSA? You once said you find criticism of AOC on the basis of her being pro-Israeli was dishonest. Do you still believe that? I don't think AOC is pro-Israeli. I think that AOC is weirdly unwilling to attack the Democratic Party when we need that shit right now, and also has for years now been pretty bad on the Iron Dome funding specifically. I think in her case it's not like Machiavellian maneuvering. I think it's a
Fashion 40 says, you're coping, Connor. Both of them are bad picks, and I think your body is more akin to donut operators, so you think it's fine? Yeah, I think it's fine. Jesus, bro. Jesus. Fucking body shame much? Mind you, I say that as I'm lifting now. Holy shit. Fashion 40 post physique. Fucking calling everybody out, bro. Listen. I'm not saying that I'm Hercules or anything. I'm no Arnold Schwarzenegger, but yeah, I lift a little bit. Fucking hell. Out here saying like, yeah. Fucking Fashion 40 just calling everybody out. He's like, oh yeah, Steven's skinny fat, but Donut is dad bod fat. But you think it's okay because you're dad bod fat. And it's like, yeah, I used to be cool. I'm not cool anymore. Damn, bro. A
little bit of cowardice. I think that she understands what she believes.
Damn, bro. Y'all are judgmental as fuck. Y'all are so judgmental. Anyways, the reason why I'm not responding to Vaush as much is, number one, my chat is funnier than Vaush. Number two, Vaush has gotten fucking lazy. Okay, he's gotten lazy. This is mediocre content. All right, you would think. So this thing is 23 minutes. Okay, you would think that what would happen is Vaush would pre-read a little bit. He would go, "Oh, actually, AOC's being a huge asshole. This is why." Blah 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 blah, and then he would have his talking points. But actually, I've bumped into this kind of Vaush content before where he reads a headline and then he just acts confused for 20 minutes. Vaush, how about you read things before you bump into them half-assed on stream, and then you can have a position. How about that? Instead of going in half-cocked all the time, you fucking bum. How about that, Vaush? Matter of fact, if he kind of like keeps acting confused for another 2 minutes, we're going to move on because like to the next segment of Vaush being confused. Because this sucks. He's like, oh yeah, AOC sucks. She's a piece of shit. Hold on, I'm reading the articles. Well, now I'm just confused. And it's like, that's content? This is your content, Vaush? Lefties, this is your hero? Embarrassing.
Believes to be right and wrong. I think that ideologically she knows that Israel is an ethno-state committing genocide, but in her heart, she's thinking like, if I play this right, I can make a bigger difference down the line. That's my guess. This is why we oppose Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's vote against an amendment that would have blocked $500 million in funding for the Israeli military's Iron Dome program, while the Congresswoman voted against the defense appropriations bill itself, voting against funding for the imperialist military-industrial complex and the Israeli genocide. We were further deeply disappointed by her clarifying statement on her position on the Iron Dome.
Hold on. So let's read that. AOC voted against an amendment that would have blocked $500 million in funding for Israel's military Iron Dome, while the Congresswoman voted against the defense appropriation bill itself, voting against funding for the imperialist military-industrial complex. Okay. So she voted against Israel getting offensive munitions, but she voted for defensive munitions. That's a perfectly tenable position, you fucking dumbasses. This is lefty purity testing once again being stupid as hell. Shocking. I'm shocked, guys. I'm shocked that the lefties are purity testing and they miss the bigger picture for the smaller picture. Let's see if Vaush can reconcile that in his brain.
I do think the clarifying statement on the Iron Dome was bad. The idea that there's some kind of moral virtue in providing Israel defensive weapons is absolutely ridiculous to me. Along with other U.S.-funded interceptor systems, the Iron Dome has emboldened Israel to invade or bomb no less than 5 different countries in the past 2 years. Yep, that is true. Data mail. I know the vote was symbolic, STO, but symbols matter, especially when you're as popular as AOC is with the...
Hold on, this is actually based. AKA Badasoy says I'm a male gymnast, wakeboarder. I almost said waterboarder. Waterboarder would have been funnier. 40-year-old fat. That's fair. That's fair.
The Democratic base. STO, you can't possibly believe you can send me a link that looks like this, and I'm going to go over it impromptu, okay? I'm still trying to find some kind of official confirmation as to the exact provisions being struck from the bill, okay? You need to... All right, bucko. A true leftist, yeah, through and through. Looking into it now, the bill allocates DoD funding, not specific funding to Israel, so that funding would go to DoD fund, not Israel. Okay, Hyperion 99, that's the shit that I want to know, because if that's true, that...
Why didn't you read it before stream, Vaush? That way you could have like a coherent segment criticizing the AOC, you dumbass.
Makes Israel look really bad. Or sorry, not Israel. That makes it, well, everything makes Israel look bad. That makes...
Fatsimo made another t-shirt. Dude, we're gonna have such fire merch whenever I get off of my ass and actually make the merch. You know how it's like, I'd rather be wakeboarding right now? I'd rather be waterboarding right now. Dude, that is awesome. And then we can have a wakeboard. We can have a wakeboard, but that can be like where the person is put down. And then, you know, you have like the guy doing the waterboarding. I'd rather be waterboarding right now. Bruh, that's a fire t-shirt. That's going to sell like hotcakes at Guantanamo Bay.
AOC look really bad because she's voting no on the total funding anyway. So why would she be against a provision striking a portion of general Pentagon? So if the money goes to the general DoD pot, if it doesn't go to Israel, then she should have voted yes on that amendment. If it only goes towards Israel either way, that makes more sense because it's a general defense appropriations bill. It's not like an Israel spending bill specifically. The pool of money would go back to the Pentagon, not towards Israel. That makes her look bad again. Read the first sentence of the portion MTG struck. It says, of the amounts appropriated in this act, the amendment would have removed the earmark of the funds. No. I understand that. I understand it removes the earmark, but the question is whether the removal of the earmark means the money goes to a general pool that goes to Israel or whether it goes to a general pool that goes to the Pentagon. But I think it makes more sense that it goes to the Pentagon. Funds that are unallocated in a defense spending bill would just go to the DoD. They wouldn't go to Israel. It's not like the Israel Iron Dome spending is part of like a subcategorized allocation, like a sub fund that goes to Israel if the stuff within it isn't earmarked. And then outside of that is the DoD spending. It's the DoD spending pot altogether. Oh, that makes AOC look bad again. God damn it. I thought I was coming back away. Listen, can we agree that she's at the very least mishandled this pretty spectacularly? I think that's an easy one at the very least. Poor communication, poor ethics on the Iron Dome business. Yeah, this makes her look really bad. I'm blackpilled and everything, TBH. Don't stop being a pussy. Blackpilling is a way to absolve yourself of the moral responsibility to continue to try and to participate, okay? I just think AOC is bad at playing this political game. Right now, like, especially in this moment.
Nice, Tofu. I'm going to add it. Yeah, turning war crimes into t-shirts. Man, we're going to have so many. I don't know if I spelled Guantanamo right, but that's okay.
Especially on Israel, you have to be like aware. If you're a progressive Democratic rep or anyone else in the game, you need to be aware of the fact that like the Democrats are your enemy, man. They're the enemy of the people. All right. Not because they're capitalist or liberal, but because the DNC institutions are right now shackling the only fighting chance we have against the Republicans. They are willing to cut out. Like, how many years have progressives been browbeaten with vote blue no matter who? Every time we have to clench.
That's going to be the next segment, by the way.
Our teeth and stomach voting for somebody like Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden when there were better men on the goddamn primary ballot. And then what happens when Mamdani wins the New York City mayoral primary? Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer don't endorse. Instead, they hem and haw. Endorsements continue to go to Cuomo. People now all of a sudden it's okay actually to run as an independent to undercut the winner of the Democratic primary. There are
Melody, I agree. Let's move into the next segment. Bro, this is so boring. It's just him trying to get caught up but not looking into it himself, just waiting for his chat to provide the info. I agree. Dude, you know what this segment is going to be? It's like, Vaush lazy again. That'll be the title. Because, dude, Vaush, I'm just going to say it. You're a fucking bum, dude. You're a fucking bum. You had the charisma, you had the chops, you had the capacity to debate. You got blown out on 2 or 3 debates. You got so big that you didn't want to share your clout. So you pulled up the ladder behind you. And then you just got fucking lazy. And now you do lazy React Andy fucking streams, which, by the way, I do React Andy streams, but you're not even prepared for it. This entire segment is supposed to be you criticizing AOC. You didn't read anything. You got confused halfway through. And then so you could cut a segment, you left in 10 minutes of being confused. That's a dog shit segment. God bless. You know what? Vaush, there's 100,000 Vaush people who watch this video. God bless you. God bless the fucking leftists who come in here and try to make the best of this dog shit segment. That is crazy. And they're all doing the steel man too. They're all walking away with the point of it instead of being like, hey, Vaush, your content is starting to suck because you're so lazy you don't research anything first. Damn. Lefties seizing power and then getting lazy once they have said power. Tell me a more potent mix than peanut butter and jelly than lefties getting some level of clout, influence, and this is the meme of socialism. Yeah, this is the meme of lefties. Is they're all passionate. Let's change the world, guys. Let's go after it. Let's get it. Let's change the world. And then they get like a shred of money and comfort and influence and power. And then they're like, you know what? I'm still going to complain about it, but I'm good. It's like, yeah, why would we give you power of society? Why would we give you anything rather than the modicum of power and influence you already have, you fucking bum? You're squandering your gifts, you dumbass. Oh, yeah. All right. Anyways, so in summary for that mini segment of the segment in general, there is a point here, which is that AOC has moderated. She's becoming too liberal for the lefties. She's being more pragmatic with her power. She voted against general spending for defense stuff for Israel, but she voted for defensive spending, or she voted against stripping the bill of defensive spending for Israel as a result, because she still kind of acted in Israel's interest in a moderate way. Vaush is disappointed, but then he got confused by what was going on, and we watched him be confused for 10 minutes. So thanks, Vaush. God. Yeah, those 100,000 people suffering. Vaush fans suffering in perpetuity. Sucks to suck. Well, guess what? We're going to suffer along with him, okay? One more time, we're going to go into the maw of Vaush content, and we're going to suffer, and we're probably going to call him a bum. But hopefully he researched this one and has coherent points. Hypocrite Democrats refuse to endorse Mamdani. This should actually be pretty simple, because I'm going to make arguments for why Democrats should not be compelled to support Mamdani. So, yeah. Hopefully he pre-researched this one a little bit.
When asked about where Mamdani stands on the phrase globalize the Intifada, Mamdani said the distance between what some intend and what others hear is a bridge that is too far, and it is why he now discourages its use. I've thought about this quite a lot. For some New Yorkers, it's a phrase that refers to civil disobedience and protest and calls to end the occupation of Palestinian land. I was sitting with a rabbi not too long ago who told me the same phrase is heard very differently by her, and it's referred It's heard as a reference to bus bombings in Haifa, restaurant attacks in Jerusalem, and it engenders a fear in her and others the possibility of those very attacks coming home here in New York City. Mamdani said his movement is one for justice and equality and would bridge the gap between all New Yorkers by focusing on what has caused so much anguish in this moment. What offends so many in our city, this horror that one is...
Tofu asks, Connor, do you go to QuestCon? I haven't gone into any cons yet, but I'm going to for sure. I need we're doing good. We're doing good. We're paying bills, but we need a little bit extra money before I can spend a few $100 on a weekend to go to cons.
Is one that is subsidized by our country. He said, I heard not just about a desire for cheaper groceries and a cost of living that was easier to navigate, but for an end to our tax dollars going to the killing of children. Mamdani said of concerns share with him over the Israel-Hamas war. Okay. On principle, I feel like he shouldn't back down because he never even said globalize the Intifada. He was just asked how he feels about the phrase, and he said he holds space for different meanings for different people and so on. But at the same time, this isn't exactly the kind of denunciation that makes it seem like he's selling out and turncoating, you know? Because the problem is that like all the people who have said that Mamdani wants to globalize the Intifada are still going to say that, right? Hakeem Jeffries has said that he hasn't endorsed Mamdani because he doesn't know him that well, and because he's concerned about statements like globalize the Intifada, which of course Mamdani never said, but they're still going to say that, right? If you show weakness, they'll start to pressure you and everything. It's globalize the Intifada, which he never said, and next it's going to be when you say, you know, BDS to a lot of rabbis in New York City, you know, that actually speaks to them of the anti-Semitic practice of not attending Jewish-owned stores or something, just some bullshit like that. You can't capitulate to the disingenuity. This whole thing has been disingenuous from the get-go, right? It would be one thing if
wait, I don't think it's disingenuous at all. I'm going to allow him to cook a little bit more because maybe he's cooking around a point somewhere. But I think Jews, 2-1, 3-1, support the state of Israel, and they can be uncomfortable with the term globalize the Intifada because the Intifada, while people can put it in a social justice context because it means to shake off or to rebel, oftentimes those rebellions involve terrorism and violence against civilians. So Jews can be uncomfortable with that. And then the same thing with BDS, boycott, divest, and sanction. That is a movement within the United States in order to boycott, divest, and sanction any business that supports the state of Israel. So if 3-1 or 2-1 Jews support the state of Israel, that can make them uncomfortable like a motherfucker. How is that disingenuous? Explain.
Mamdani was like yelling from the rooftops, globalize the Intifada, which, by the way, from my perspective, is a relatively spicy slogan, okay? I think there are much better ways to advocate for Palestinian liberation than that phrase. That phrase seems to me like it's mostly, like it's very controversial, it's very incisive, it makes you feel...
LB says 50% of young Jewish people voted Mamdani, so that's bullshit. Well, Mamdani isn't specifically endorsing the Intifada. He's saying that, like, I'm not going to condemn it because it's a phrase that's viewed differently by different people. So, but I could still think that you could be a tepid Zionist and vote Mamdani.
Very woke when you say it. I don't think it's actually like...
Yeah, exactly. Thomas Martinson is saying it. Supports the state of Israel is very, very usefully used as well. Yeah, guys, like, I say this, like, I'm a tepid Zionist, okay? What I mean by that is, I think that Jews have a historic claim to Israel that stretches back 3,200 years. Within the past 200 years, they started returning to that territory in the Zionist movement, which was both secular and religiously motivated. They came into conflict with the Palestinians. The state of Israel was established in 1948. It's fought 2 or 3 existential wars in order to establish itself, and now it's there. So between a choice of let's erase the state of Israel and make it a one-state Palestinian Arab Muslim majority state and rename it Palestine, I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think it's a good thing if it did happen. But I also think that annexing Gaza and the West Bank slowly is bad, and there should be a 2-state solution where Palestinian Arab Muslims or Palestinian Muslims get their own sovereign, defensible, bordered territory. So, yeah, like I'm a tepid Zionist. John Kennedy says, I've seen your rationalization of why it was good that the Jubilee fascist was fired, but commies are usually left alone. Isn't the downplaying of the threat of commies while viciously coming down on fascists the whole reason that progressives were able to get their hooks into society in the 2000s? Yeah, maybe. Like, maybe I should have more heat for communists. I actually have a healthy chunk of heat for communists, though. I just understand that other people don't. And I think that communists and like far leftists are viewed as infinitely more ineffectual. Like, while the lefties and the progressives are more popular in the culture, they're not very popular electorally. And then I would also say that the right wing is obviously way more the far right wing is obviously way more influential on the right wing right now. So I think the prioritization is correct. But I would actually invite you to watch the stream from Tuesday. I forget what today is. Is today just Wednesday? Oh my God. Is today just Wednesday? Did I talk to Corbin yesterday? Anyways, check out the stream on Tuesday on the Counterpoints channel with Corbin Sales. I'll make sure that it's listed so you can watch it. But effectively, like, I think we strike a decent middle ground of where we think we need to push the left and where we think we need to push the right. So yeah. Andy B says all their problems would be solved if they just converted to Christianity. I mean, that's another option. Is just return it to Christian Imperium. There we go. Yeah. Thomas Martinson says 50% of young Jewish people in a Democratic primary of the most progressive city in the country in an election with 30% turnout. Yeah. I wouldn't view that as a good barometer for the entire country and the entire Jewish population. What the fuck does New York City race have to do with Israel? They talk about Israel. How about a mayor who rejects hate speech in all forms? How about you call out the Islamophobia against Mandami? No. He has never given any reason for the pearl clutching? No. Nope. I'll tell you when I'm like mildly Islamophobic. I have a lot of Muslim friends. I love my Muslim friends, and I fight for a more chill version of Islam. But whenever somebody's like Islamophobia, I'm like, Muslims, like, jihadists have killed the fuck out of hundreds of thousands of people over the past 2 decades. You have a strong reason to dislike and hate jihadists. All right. Old School says, don't say just Wednesday. I have a massive coding project due Friday and I've barely begun. Well, good thing you're doing something that's good for your brain. All right. Watching Counterpoints. It's good for your brain. So it's going to make your coding project very easy. Andy B says, Jewish people tend to be wealthy. Wealthy young people are commies. Yeah, I mean, kind of. Tofu, it's just crazy to me that obvious things like free food in schools isn't standard. I don't even plan on having kids, and I want to make sure children don't starve. Yeah. Cheap, high-quality schools, I think, should just be everybody. Like, in the Northeast, there's just a culture where you have cheap, high-quality schools. So that should just be a thing. When it comes to kids not starving, I agree. I think it can jump the shark with social programs, but we're going to get into the weeds instead of dealing with the content. Yeah. LB says, we know, Connor, stop showing your bias, bro, and grow up. Christians have killed more people than any religion in history. Calm your tits. Is that even true? I'm going to let the ADD overwhelm me. How many people did the Crusades kill? So, estimating the total number of deaths caused by the Crusades is difficult, but historical accounts suggest that tens of thousands of people were killed during these conflicts. For example, one account describes a massacre of at least 70,000 people. So that's like a few 100,000. Estimates for the number of people killed in the Crusades begin at 1 million and go as high as 9 million. Okay, so that's not true. Then, how many people did Genghis Khan kill? So Genghis Khan beat the Christians by a factor of 5, so 40 to 60 million. How many people did the Caliphate conquests kill? And then the Caliphates are The siege of Baghdad alone had an estimated 200,000 to 2 million people killed. The Mongols killed 75% of the Iranian population, but that's going to be Genghis Khan. How many people were killed in Islamic invasions? 370 million people. I think that's probably off. That's probably off by a substantive amount. They're probably including like slaves who died in slavery. But anyways, the point is, like, let's just, LB, I think you've grown up in an anti-Western historical analysis. I think we could probably find that the Christian Crusades and Inquisition and Reconquista are probably similar to the invasions of the caliphates. And then I think Genghis Khan is going to outperform, because, you know, Asians, they love to outperform everybody. I think Genghis Khan is going to outperform Christians by a substantive amount. So, yep. Back to the content.
Yeah, it's pretty LARPy.
Matthew, Connor, did you adjust the deaths for inflation? Nice.
I don't think it's actually like doing much good. If he was
not just the Crusades, the KKK is a Christian org. How many people do you think the KKK killed? It's an American-only organization. How many people did the KKK kill? They were only around for like 80 years. I mean, I know they're around in their lame form, but how many people did the KKK kill? It's going to be like tens of thousands maximum. Maximum, it's going to be tens of thousands. How many people did the KKK kill? And they didn't give me a specific number. But I guarantee you that the number is going to be in the thousands or tens of thousands. It's not going to be in the millions. I think you have a problem conceptualizing large numbers. That's okay. Human beings have a problem conceptualizing large numbers, but compare like the Crusades make the KKK look like child's play, and the caliphates, I would say, are on par or probably even surpassing the Christian Crusades. And then I would say that the Mongol invasions probably make the Crusades and the caliphates look like child's play as well. How many 9/11s was that? Yeah. Kay says not all Jews are rich. True. All right. Anyways, back to it.
Screaming it from the rooftops, and somebody was like, hey, can you dial it down? That's not the most effective way to advocate for your cause. And he said, okay, that'd be one thing. It is scary to the normies. It does frighten the hoes.
How many people have Grill Hottest killed? Just a few hundred, maybe a few thousand. Like cumulatively, if you add up all the veterans that are a part of the Grill Hottest movement, it's probably a few hundred. I won't be surprised if we get like 1,000 live viewers. I would expect that Grill Hottest have probably killed 1,000 people, like in total. We're not like a totally peaceful religion, you know, we're like mostly peaceful.
That is true. It does frighten the hoes, but it was disingenuous from the get-go. He wasn't using this language. Now he discourages its use. Like, okay, whatever. Did this come out after he went to DC? After his primary win? Is that the context in which this is being discussed?
Yeah. People are saying my KKK estimate is super high. Yeah, I'm sure it is super high. That would be the maximum number. That would be the maximum number. I'm sure it's in maybe the thousands.
Because I did see that when he won the primary and went to DC. By the way, when Eric Adams won the Democratic primary, he went and met with the president and the Speaker of the House. When Mamdani wins, he doesn't speak to any high-level White House officials or congressional officials, no high-level Democrats. And apparently Bernie Sanders, who, you know, agrees with Mamdani on quite a bit, Sanders, who is Jewish, really urged Mamdani to be cautious about how he approaches talking about Israel. That's fair, yeah, of course. Both are critics of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's handling of its war in Gaza. Ahead of the trip, Mamdani told business leaders in New York he would discourage the use of the phrase globalize the intifada. Okay, so this was like right before he went over then.
LB, you're such a fucking fedora, dude. All right, listen, I'm gonna apologize to the VOD viewers, okay? I'm creating bad content right now, but I'm gonna blame Vaush for the bad content, okay? What's going on is Vaush is being a bum in half-ass reading news articles about topics that he's tepidly interested in, instead of having a point and fighting for his point because he's gotten into his hug box and he's gotten lazy. I'm going to have to start curating Vaush content because he's creating so much mediocre content right now. But anyways, because this is more interesting, I'm going to talk about it. LB says the problem is always religion and the rationalization of atrocities for some god. Well, that's interesting because I'm pretty sure the Soviet Union was an explicitly atheistic enterprise. So Soviet Union total deaths. So estimates for deaths in the Soviet Union are millions to tens of millions. You know, so they killed a substantive amount of people in the Holodomor, in political persecutions, et cetera, et cetera. How many people did Stalin kill? You know, several million to 20 million. Okay. So, you know, he's competing with the Christians pretty aggressively. And then how many people did Mao kill? Uh, 15 to 45 million deaths. So it looks like you have a couple of socialist lefty atheists who are competing with Christians. So how do you explain that? If it's all just religion and the only reason why people kill each other because of religion, how did two of the most powerful secular organizations to begin in the early 20th century kill tens of millions of people? Riddle me that, LB, you fedora.
Nani, who has not used the phrase himself.
Yeah, this is happening. Says read headlines and flail. Yeah, that's actually the content right now. Is read the headline and go, oh. Yeah, or Pol Pot, who wiped out 30% of his population. Yeah, come on.
Thank you, CNN, for surprisingly not disingenuous framing there. Has said he believes the phrase to be a rallying cry for Palestinian human rights and refused to condemn its use when asked during its primary campaign. Yeah, because it's weird to ask a person to condemn language they themselves haven't used. Like, that's just weird. You know, it would be one thing if Mamdani was at a pro-Palestinian rally and everyone else was chanting, you know, globalize the Intifada or whatever, but you're just tossing the most controversial sounding slogans at him. You're just pitching the ones that'll scare the hoes the most to see how he bats. It's racist, kind of. Yeah, it's a little bit racist to go to the Muslim guy and be like, all right, here's a list of 372 slogans that people have said are anti-Semitic. Okay, how do you feel about Zionist-occupied government? Mamdani's like, I've never said that. I disavow. And they're like, okay, let's go through 971 more. It's like, dude, what if we stuck to the language that he uses? What if we stuck to the language that, you know, is like directly around him? Please rate them. But you really, you think that globalize the Intifada is better than Zionist-occupied government? Can you give us a 30-minute explanation for your position on this, Mamdani? It's unwinnable. Sanders told Mamdani he had to do a better job explaining his criticism is not anti-Semitic, and not to let himself seem like he's minimizing the fear of Jews. I just don't think he's done this. But Bernie...
Conservative liberalism, Vaush stream boils down to old man reads newspaper. Bruh.
Sanders has spent a lifetime capitulating to the Democratic Party, so it's possible that at this point and at his age, you know, that he's just not... You got to fight the Democrats too, man. It's not like they're being genuine when they throw this shit at you. They know they're lying.
Donnie, and on top of that, Republicans are certainly trying to cast him as a liability for Democrats. Do you see him as such?
We're going to have a very robust discussion in the event that we are able to proceed tomorrow, but at some point shortly thereafter, if we are not, about quality of life issues important to the people
Minority House Leader, by the way,
represent in the 8th Congressional District in New York, related to affordability, safety, and the ability to make sure that New York City remains a place that working families, middle-class folks, and all those who aspire to be part of the middle class can continue to call home. At the same period of time, I do look forward to having a conversation with our Democratic nominee about the importance of everyone being on the same page in terms of taking back control of the House of Representatives.
That's great. Thank you. No endorsement. Thank you. Thank you.
Listen, I am gonna laugh at that because he basically, like, without saying it, he was like, "Yeah, that socialist shit is kind of cringe." Listen, there is nothing more Schadenfreude for me than somebody being like, "Yeah, I'm a socialist. We're gonna take over the world." Ah! And then, like, normie Democrats are like, "Yeah, can you be quiet though? Can you do it quietly?" Melody says, "Bro, who the hell requested this to be added to the docket? This is horrible content to go over." Melody, relax, okay? What we figured out, or what I figured out, is that whenever you put these characters in the thumbnail, Hassan, Vaush, Destiny, Sitchin, as a matter of fact, I'm going to blame you momentarily, Melody. I'm going to blame you. So Hassan, Vaush, Destiny, Sitchin, Adam, Nick, if I put these people in the thumbnail, then we easily break like 1K, even if the content sucks. Whereas if I do my normal content, but I break out into these other characters, which, by the way, we'll still cover, but you know, the views are substantively lower on the VODs. So the truth is, you didn't watch the VODs. This is your fault, Melody. If you didn't want me to be reacting to Vaush, then the channel shouldn't have given me thousands of views for Vaush related content. And you should have watched all the content where I talk about these other characters. Boom. It's your fault, bro. It's your fault.
They met today, by the way, and he still hasn't endorsed him. Jeffries will not endorse Zohran Mamdani. It's not about fears of anti-Semitism.
It's pronounced Zoltan, okay?
Or whatever else, okay? It's because he's a dog of the establishment, he's a dog of AIPAC, he's a dog of corporate media, and Mamdani is not. And that's it. That's it. That's the only reason why. And unfortunately, Bernie, like, you're not going to fight back against this. You're not going to fight back against this by, like, playing into the game and taking serious.
Melody, I'm fucking around. Yes, I want you in the live. I'm fucking around, okay?
Seriously, all the bullshit id-poll criticisms they throw forward. He's been asked so many times, over and over and over again, are you endorsing? Are you endorsing? It's always some bullshit answer. God, I hate looking at him. Following his trip to Washington.
Anybody that's staying out at this point.
True. AKA Badasoy says, Melody, you should rewatch VODs on 4 to 10 different YouTube tabs while you aren't at the computer. True.
Instead of endorsing this incredible dynamic leader, is missing an opportunity.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Here's what I was thinking of. This is from 3 days ago.
Your meeting with Zohran Mamdani, you have not endorsed him yet. What do you say to people who say, why are you not endorsing the guy that won the Democratic primary in a contested election in your backyard?
Well, I look forward to sitting down and talking to him. I didn't get involved in that primary election, and I don't know.
Just say because he's a socialist and he's an electoral liability. Boom. Over.
Him well. We had a very good conversation.
Don't know him well. Didn't get involved in the primary election of the mayor of New York City, even though that's the state I represent. Haven't really talked to him. And then, wow, they met, they talked, and what a surprise, he's still not endorsing him.
The day after the primary, we agreed to meet. And so I'm looking forward to having that discussion on Friday.
Nothing happened. They had the discussion, no endorsement. Hate these people, dude. They're just as much our enemies as the Republicans. If you're in a bar fight and one dude is punching the shit out of you, punching your face over and over, and there's a second guy who's not punching you, but he's just pinning your wrists down to the ground so you can't fight back, those people are both equally your enemy. They're both doing the same thing. They have taken different tasks, but they are united in the same objective, whether or not they know it. Even if the person who's holding your wrist down is trying to be well-intentioned with it. Oh, don't fight back. It'll make it worse. It doesn't matter. You know exactly what's going on here. Anyway, now to a real human.
Just learning skills from him, communication skills. It was not about whether we're supporting him or not.
I think he's a very personable, smart young man. And I hope we're not going to have a lot of circular firing squads.
House Democrats there after meeting with the newly minted Democratic nominee for mayor of New York. So
I really hope Mamdani inspires some of these people to start pushing back against Schumer and Jeffries, man.
Mamdani, the self-declared Democratic socialist who topped Andrew Cuomo last month for a Democratic Party that's struggling to find its footing after losing power completely in November. Mamdani, one of the most high-profile and polarizing figures to appear on the national stage. Our next guest knows a thing or two about electing Democrats, and he writes this about Mamdani recently, quote, America doesn't necessarily go the way of the Big Apple. the New Jersey gubernatorial primary.
So Melody says, I would recommend Connor to my brother's church group, but they are pretty sensitive about language and Connor struggles with that. Lol. Yeah, that's the problem too. So my mom talks to me and she says, hey, you're cussing too much. You would appeal to more people. You would appeal to more people if you didn't cuss so much. And then I do good for about an hour and then I fall back into bad habits. So my apologies. My apologies.
And the lack of one in Virginia will prove more informative for Democrats' fortunes in 2026 and 20.
Yeah, don't look at New York City, okay? New York City is famously not representative of the rest of the country. You know, it's kind of like a monoculture ethno state. It doesn't really. It's
no, Vaush, you straw manning son of a bitch. No. They're saying the rural areas are majority white and Christian. They're saying that the urban areas are pretty mixed, but some of them are conservative and some of them are progressive and some of them are liberal. That's what they're saying. New York is a uniquely progressive city. The only place that comes close to it is LA. That's what they're saying, you straw man and son of a bitch.
It's not really like a broad base, right? Now, the New Jersey gubernatorial primary.
28, and Rahm Emanuel joins us now. He's the former mayor of Chicago. He served as President Obama's chief of staff. He was recently ambassador to Japan in the Biden administration. He also is a CNN senior political and global affairs analyst. And like I said,
Rahm Emanuel is a massive piece of shit. Yeah, obviously. Look at his face. As always, evil.
I love Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel talks the way that I talk. It's so awesome. I'm gonna pull this up. Rahm Emanuel cussing compilation. Oh man. There was this old clip. I don't see it. But there's one where he's walking around behind the scenes and he's just dropping F-bombs like crazy. And I understand that's not everybody's vibe, right? Matter of fact, a lot of people get really turned off when you're in a professional setting and you're just dropping endless profanity. A lot of people get really turned off by it. But it was so funny because he's just walking around talking to Obama staffers and he's talking like a Marine. Dang. They got buried in the algorithm. Sad days, brothers.
People make themselves known to you, okay? The devil will reveal the mark of the beast. Before they invented phrenology, they thought it would be numbers, okay? It's actually facial structure. Can't you tell?
Worked on electing Democrats to the House way back in the day. So I'm very happy to have you on the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I want to start with where kind of Democrats are, big picture, because some of these new poll numbers are really tough for Democrats. The approval ratings are really low, and it's someone like Zohran Mamdani that is front and center. Do you think the party embracing someone like him in this national way is a recipe for success?
No. I think that the Democrats, when they're currently more unpopular than they ever have been in the entire history of the party, should keep doing what they're doing now and definitely shouldn't stand behind the champion of every value they pretend to have.
Correct. Mamdani is too far left for a national poll. Vaush is being sarcastic. I'm not.
Who is much more popular than they are.
Well, let me, first of all, you cited a poll that CNN put out today. It shows a very energized Democratic Party, way over energized than the Republican Party. And It also shows that independents are breaking almost 2-to-1 for the Democrats.
What poll?
So I think that's a very...
Oh, man, I wonder if Steven's jokes about dead kids and pornography are going to help with that 2-to-1 break to the left.
Very telling sign. I do think the New Jersey and Virginia governor's races are more indicative both about the candidate we recruited, their message, and what it will mean to 2020.
Candidate we recruited, by the way, take note of the language. They're specifically pushing back against the fact that they don't control Mamdani. They want like stooges in these positions, so there's no real pushback against the establishment line.
2026 and 2028, both women are moderates who come out of the national security kind of pool of candidates that we.
Oh, that's great. We love that. Moderates. Oh, but they're women because we have to use id poll to mask for our ideological weaknesses, you know?
Have in the past.
What,
and I think that's where you're going to see, I think, something that gives you a floodlight into the future. And second, as it relates to the...
he said women weird, because to people like him, a person being a woman is like a tick that you get to sign off next to their name to convince voters to vote for them. They don't believe in anything. It's all just id poll. It's just cynical id poll to them.
Yeah, but what I would argue is find economics that aren't cringe. So, for instance, you guys are asking me, or at least some people are, LB is, in my opinion, presenting a false dichotomy where you have to embrace the socialist or you have to embrace the corporate Democrats. Well, how about this secret third thing called good policy, right? The reason why freezing rents is bad is because you're creating a false market. I actually have a different false market thing, but I would say that it's serving a market failure. So let me explain the problem real quick. Give me a second. Let me pull up New York City map. New York City maps. So lots of people want to live and work in New York City. Okay. So and we're really talking about right here, pretty much from like Brooklyn in. This is what we're talking about. This is considered upstate New York. It's very nice, but it's very expensive. And this is Long Island. Upstate New York is up here, right? My apologies for getting mixed up. Let me zoom out. Here's upstate, you know, Buffalo, Rochester, all that stuff. That's upstate New York. But the city is its own entity. And so what's going on is the city has a certain labor demand where lots of people want to work here, lots of people want to be here. But in order for this to function, Staten Island, Brooklyn, Manhattan, all that kind of stuff, the way that this needs to function is you need to have a labor pool that is able to live and work here and not do a 2-hour commute. And since so many people want to live here, they've effectively pushed out the working class and the middle class, where the working class and middle class who do necessary jobs in order for the city to function, they're being pushed out further and further and further to the point that they have like a 4-hour commute, right? That's unsustainable. It's unfair to the working class. It's fucked up. And so what I would argue is that a certain portion of the residential available tenants in New York, in Brooklyn, in Queens, in Staten Island should be carved out for working class folks who make the city function. And so it should be some kind of cost of living calculation where, let's say that the minimum wage in the city of New York was $15 an hour or something like that, then you should be able to have this like low income, mid income zoned housing. You should have that zoned for working class folks who make the city function. And the cost of rent should be a third of that wage. That's what I would do. And so freezing the rent pricing is silly. It's way too strong of a thing. And like, no, not rent stabilized public housing. I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I think it should effectively be correlated with the cost of living, So I believe the minimum wage in New York City is $22 an hour, and he has plans to increase it to $30 an hour by 2030. Yeah, so let's just take $22 an hour. Let's say that we're going to split the difference, okay? 22 times 40 times 4, okay? 35.20. Divide by 3, okay? There should be 1-bedroom apartments. Okay. Then apply the same principle, fashion 40. Let's say it's 15 times 40 times 4. This is a monthly salary, $2,400. Okay. Divide by 3 is 800. You cannot find a single bedroom apartment in New York City for $1,000 a month. You can't. So my point is that there should be a neighborhood, there should be like 10% of the housing within Brooklyn, 10% of the housing within Queens, 10% of the housing within Staten Island, 10% of the housing within Manhattan should be designated for working class people. Should do 40 times 52 divided by 12. Why? Because you want the monthly salary in order to include the extra days? All right, fine. We'll make it even more accurate. 40 hours times $15 an hour times 52 weeks divided by 12 months. 2,600 divided by 3. It's $900. Oh, shut up. You guys are mathing me. Anyways, the whole point is, the reason why I would do that, though, isn't because I'm some communist who who wants desperately to survive in New York City. I don't give a fuck about New York City. New York City is a rat's nest. I never want to live there. I don't give a shit about New York. However, I think that making your working class commute 2 hours where they have to drive a taxi to a train station, to take a train station to a ferry, to take a ferry to the city, to get into the city in order to take another taxi or the subway into their restaurant is stupid. Okay? I think it's stupid. I think it's dysfunctional. I think it fucks over the working class. Andy B says, you can increase population density zoning, but then you are going to add a lot of stress to the public grid, sewer, electric, water, and there's going to be a point that that's just impractical. Yeah, NIMBYism or YIMBYism doesn't work either because, like you said, you have bad zoning. Excuse me. Kay says, what if they are working class but have a side gig that makes them a lot of money? Do they still qualify? I have no idea. We could probably do it. I would say it's probably like for people who make under 100 grand a year, right? And then you would just do the lottery system, right? And after that, the city's just fucked. So move someplace else. Like just move Five Head. Anyways, so I think the working class needs to be protected in some ways because that's what makes a city function. But I also think that eventually, if you're like, it costs too much, you know, the schools are bad, there's too much crime, there's homeless people, there's shit on the street, move. You know, just move, Five Head. Jack Darko says the music video is Mr. Cardaman. Nani Mamdani was a rapper before he was a politician. Yeah, well, we all did cringe shit in 2020, right? Fashion 40 says that's impracticality is why there's fucked areas in New York City right now. Yeah. Those people already live there. Yeah, and they're getting pushed out. Fatsimo says new screaming Anna Kasparian face thumbnail for a Pierce Morgan video drop. Need to add Anna to your algo boosting titles for sure. All right. Anyways. Yep. All right. Parasocial love. Back to it. I need to use the restroom. Enjoy Vaush's erratic thought.
You know? Nominee for mayor in New York City. As I think I said, as it relates to national elections, I'm more interested in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan than I am the Upper West Side of Manhattan. But you'd be foolish not to see or pay attention to his focus on the cost of living issues. As somebody who has said the American dream is unaffordable and that is unacceptable to us, that is where our focus should be. It used to be when you and I were growing up. If you worked hard, you could get ahead. Today, if you work hard, you run in place and you go nowhere fast and just break a sweat. He focused on something. Now, I don't agree with his
broken clock. Not broken clock. Every politician since time immemorial has promised to lower prices. The difference with Mamdani is that he's explained how he'll do it, and it involves challenging the landlords. That's the reason why he's different. But for Democrats, they never deliver on these promises. The most you get is like a fiddly bureaucrat, like a little tax break, a tax rebate. It doesn't amount to anything substantial. But, you know, a politician saying we have a cost of living crisis, that's every politician, every state, all the time. Nobody would say otherwise.
Grocery stores, city-run grocery stores, you know, city government has a tough time running trains on time, let alone a grocery store or free buses. But his critique of the problem.
Why could a government not run free buses? What about the buses being free makes them more difficult to run? It's a bus. It's pretty simple. You drive a large car along a route and you stop every couple blocks. So is that really beyond us? oh, the government can't handle stuff like that. What? Like, listen, in the same breath, he says the cost of living is too high, things are unaffordable, but also cheaper groceries, free bus rides, ridiculous. Fantasies cooked up by a socialist lunatic. Let's focus on the real world here, where the bus costs $3.25, groceries continue to raise in price by 8% every year, except for when inflation spikes, and then it goes up by 22%. And then we can start talking about real solutions to economic inequality, like a $3,000 tax break for a couple's first child.
He's not wrong. His solution to that analysis is where I have a disagreement. But as it relates to politics, New Jersey and Virginia are far more significant and far more revealing about what the future beholds if we run the right type of candidate with the right type of message.
So let's dig into those poll numbers, because as you mentioned, Democratic enthusiasm among Democratic voters.
Don't free buses basically pay for themselves? Providing free or extremely subsidized public transportation pays for itself because the ability for people to move around freely makes jobs and patronizing businesses much more easy and accessible. It makes bus lines not like an uncomfortable little commute option for people who don't have a car, but instead a real viable form of public transit. More people use them to get around, so areas near bus stops get a lot more traffic, both for shopping and like for people who want to work there. It accelerates the economy. It's one of the reasons we don't have toll roads everywhere. We make roads free at the point of service because it would really, imagine how much harder it would be to get around and take advantage of the opportunities in your city if every time you reached a crosswalk you had like to pay a little toll. The only
try not being poor
reason we subsidize cars and roads but not buses and trains is because we have a car-centric society. There's no reason it has to be that way.
To get to the polls is in fact off the charts in our poll. I think we can put up that screen with those numbers. However, the party itself, right? And so
Mellow D says red states probably need people. They should have a program trying to get people to move. I agree completely, Mellow D. I actually, I think that I would love to do urban design in order to make cities more attractive for people. I wish I could do that. I wish I could just talk to a millionaire or a billionaire and start talking about urban design to make the peak of human cities. I wish I could do that.
There it is. 72% of Democrats strongly motivated to vote in the midterms.
Oh, that's the poll. That was the poll Rahm Emanuel was citing as evidence that Democrats don't actually hate their own party, that they're motivated to vote in the midterms. Have you considered they're motivated to vote in the midterms because they want to vote your ass?
Chris Hufford says, first time I've been able to catch one of your streams. Glad to see more people with level heads entering the arena of streaming politics because the discourse is so full of useless bad actors. Thank you, Chris. That means a lot.
It's out.
50% of the Republicans are strongly motivated to vote. But even Democrats are saying they're really unhappy with the Democratic Party. And that is different than what we saw in 2018, right? The same period after Trump was elected the first time, where Democrats were extremely motivated, but they were also fine with the party. What does that tell you?
Well, look.
Yeah, free transit bus roads in my city have become 80% homeless territory. Yeah, listen, I got an anti-homeless bias. So I'm presuming that Vaush was saying that public transport should be free at the point of service because it enables economic activity. I can agree to a degree that the economic benefit of having cheap or free public transit is so obvious that like effectively public transit should be free or close to free. However, I think there's something to be said for the fact that when people pay into a system, they often take care of it. So as an example, public bathrooms in Europe, you actually have to pay $1, at least in Belgium 20 years ago. You have to pay like $1 every time you want to use the bathroom. And there's actually a person standing there, at least 20 years ago. There's a person standing there collecting $1. But the reason why they were collecting $1 is because, number one, everybody does it, so the funding is out the wazoo. Number two, they keep the public restrooms spick and span and ultra clean. There's no glory holes unless you're in Germany. There's no hard drug use unless you're in Germany. There's no, sex parties in the bathroom unless you're in Germany. But that's all on a volunteer basis, and they keep it very clean, right? So the whole point is that like European public bathrooms, you have to pay $1 in order to use, but they're spick and span because they're very well maintained. I don't think people have a problem with paying $1 to use public services. They just don't want vagrants to be doing hard drugs and physically assaulting people whenever they use that service. So for me, make it free, make it $1. I don't give a shit. That's not the point. Make sure that it's clean, well-funded, and not overrun with homeless people.
Let me say one thing. When you have
Look, I'm paid to be a stooge for corporate interests. I'm not here to answer questions, you stupid bitch.
One party control both sides of Pennsylvania Avenue, which you have here. You have lessons of history from 1994, where the Democrats lost the House and the Senate. You have lessons from 2006. You have lessons from 2010 for President Obama. You have 2008.
Fashion 40, what game do you play that lets you build realistic cities? Because honestly, I would love to build my utopia and then see how it functions in game. That would actually be pretty dope.
For President Trump. So there's a physics to this. Energized opposition, independents break 2-1 for the opposition, and dejected incumbent party voters. That your poll shows exactly that paradigm is playing out at
City
this
skylines
moment.
too.
Now the brand of the party, not good. Energized voters, that's more important. Every election.
Listen, it doesn't matter that the party is more unpopular than it ever has been in the entire history of the party. Literally the entire over a century-long history of the Democratic Party. For as long as polling has been done, it has never been this unpopular. But that doesn't matter, okay? What matters is that I'm choosing to interpret high voter turnout energy as a sign of support for the party, despite all evidence to the contrary.
Special and primary since 2024 has shown an incredible energy by the Democratic base voters. Independents dissatisfied with Republicans.
Randy Chang says free buses in New York City isn't a new idea. We tried it in 2008. It fell apart for good reasons. Was it because you were swamped by homeless people throwing up and peeing and doing hard drugs and beating the shit out of people?
And Republican voters actually also dissatisfied with their
Hey, man, these people, the Democratic Party is a machine to turn reasonable socialists into Brianna Joy Gray, man. It is so difficult to not like look at this and not see the contempt that they hold you in and go like, I'm completely like I'm allowing.
Dude, if the Democratic Party was a bunch of elitist snob technocrats trying to build a better society through good policy, I could get down with that. The problem is like, I hate the base, and I want to be able like open about that, right? Like if you're some bootlicking, window licking communist, I want to be able to say you're a bootlicking, window licking communist. Shut up and just click the box, dummy. Like I want to be able to say that, and I don't think that would be popular. You know, trying to be a Democratic political representative. If you just said, yeah, you guys are too stupid to craft good policy, sure, so shut up and let me do it. I don't think that's a winning message. But I mean, if the Democratic Party embraced that, then, you know, maybe that's what Republicans used to do. Republicans used to say, hey, you guys are a bunch of plebs. We're the smart ones. Let us craft the policy. We got it. We'll give you a tax break. Shut up. That was Republican policy, and I loved it.
Cynicism to take over, like the symbiote over Spider-Man's suit. You know, I'm going to like my new political position is my new pronouns are / Democrats. I'm not voting in any election. If Trump wins a third term, it'll be funny. That's my position, and we deserve it because, you know, we allowed the Democrats to metastasize to the point where Trump could win a third term. That's why it's so difficult. But you got to remember, you have to temper your own emotions, but you also have to remember these Democrats, Rahm Emanuel, Hakeem Jeffries, whatever, they hate you more than the Republicans do. The Republicans find you.
I mean, I hate you. It's true. Again, I like Vaush. I think Vaush is funny, but I think he's lazy. His content has started to suck. It's probably sucked for a while now. And it's haphazard commentary that he barely researches. And by the way, it's black pill. What is the motivating factor for the midterms, okay? We're facing... I'm going to tell you something that pisses me off. This is the most inspired I'll be all stream because Vaush fucking sucks nowadays. But... So he's telling him that the corporate Democrats hate you more than the Republicans do. He's telling him that the Democrats are just fleecing them for their votes. They're never going to take care of you. They're never going to help you. But meanwhile, we actually have the strongest argument for a normie Californian Kamala Harris presidency that we've ever had, which is 14 million people are being killed by USAID cuts and also PEPFAR cuts. We are spending more money than ever, despite Republicans talking about fiscal conservatism. We are unapologetically supporting Israel and borderline volunteering to assist them with their ethnic cleansing. What's the other thing that, we're fucking with the economy in such ways that we're destroying tons of small businesses that are in turn affecting petite bourgeois and proletarian families. I'm trying to think of what else, but like there's an endless cascade of reasons to say that Kamala Harris would have been less destructive to the, the Mexicans. Oh, we're doing mass deportations that are hurting the proletariat. And not just that, we're incarcerating them without due process in gulags in Central America and in Florida. This is the strongest arguments that you've had for why the milquetoast Democrat is better than the MAGA Republicans ever. And how does Vaush express this? Oh yeah, the Democrats hate you and they suck. He can feel that way. I just think it's incredibly stupid. Aren't we supposed to be getting people ginned up for the midterms? Aren't we supposed to be getting them ready, being like, yeah, fuck the Republicans, fuck the Republicans. They're going crazy. There's no Republicans left. They're all MAGA cultists. They're all losing their minds. We need to get ready. We need to get ready to vote. We need to get ready to vote. We need to get these guys out. They're doing untold damage to America. And Vaush is like, Rahm Emanuel hates you. Thanks, Vaush. Thanks. I'm happy we're on the same team. Because we're not.
I think that your opposition is amusing, but for the most part, they just think it's a fun game to get away with as much as they can. The Democrats despise you. They despise you.
Oh, man, this is what message will resonate with voters? Donald Trump is doing ethnic cleansing and violating civil rights. Therefore, milquetoast Democrats are better than Donald Trump. Or Vaush, that's my message. Or Vaush's message. The Democrats despise you. Nice. Nice, Vaush.
More than you could imagine. They are so contemptuous. Not all of them, but key players like Rahm Emanuel. You know what I saw recently? A big
hashtag not all
protege of Schumer, Anthony Weiner, the guy who got ousted from Congress because of a sexting scandal, then went on to have another sexting scandal, then went on to have found to have sexted a minor. That Anthony Weiner, he did a Adam Friedland show, which I've watched through. And one thing which I recommend you watch, I recommend you watch that specific episode with Mr. Weiner and Mr. Friedland, because seeing a disgraced former protege of Schumer, it's really, really obvious one thing, how much contempt he holds for the audience of the show. Not because it's Friedland's audience, but because it's an audience of voters. It's so like, who has watched that episode and agrees with me? Mr. Weiner held the viewers of that episode in obscene contempt, like the poison dripping from his mouth with every word. He thought little of their intelligence, of their motivations, of their interests. And I don't think it was because he's a disgraced, former, Democratic upper, former protege of Schumer. I think it's because he was taught that by Schumer. I think Schumer would be like that too. I think Schumer would be like that if he was cut out of the political game and was just doing a podcast circuit. They hate you more than you could imagine. They despise you. Rahm Emanuel despises you. Okay, you could have a beer. You could go play games with somebody like Hannity. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. It's a job to him. He might hate you in like a broad abstract way, but interpersonal.
Oh man, the Republicans are nicer than Corpo Dems. Let's see how this resonates with the audience.
He's just here to be evil and have fun, okay? Hannity, Tucker, Trump. This isn't the case with all Republicans, by the way. I don't think you could have a beer with Stephen Miller, with Carolyn Levitt, maybe with Lutnick. But with people like Rahm Emanuel, and pardon me for holding them to a higher standard, okay? You could not with these people. They hate you. They hate you, and they hate Mamdani. They hate Mamdani because he's a representation of the fact that you can get ahead in this game without turning into a hollow, soulless void.
Two other points I would make that I think are relevant.
By the way, Mamdani is a fucking actor. Like, I hate to say this, but Mamdani, like, he is charismatic. He is funny. But Mamdani is like the multi-millionaire son of like two immigrants who came in and sent him to private school for $60,000 a year throughout his entire life, got out, became like a skit YouTuber and actor and rapper, and then ran in far left politics. Mamdani is not some like bootstraps working class savior. He's a fucking theater kid. Mamdani parents. Sorry. Let's go here. The parents who helped shape Zoran Mamdani's politics, Mahmoud Mamdani and Mira Nair. Yeah, let's check out he born in 91, dude. This guy's like 3 or 4 years younger than me. So Mamdani was born in 1991 in Kampala, Uganda, the only child of filmmaker Mira Noir and the post-colonial academic Mahmoud Mamdani. So he's the son, the only child of a post-colonialism sociological professor, Mahmoud Mamdani, and a filmmaker. He was given his middle name Kwame by his father in honor of Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana. Both his parents are of Indian descent. His mother is a Punjabi Hindu who was born in Rukela and raised in Bhubaneswar. And his father is Gujarati Muslim who was born in Bombay and grew up primarily in Uganda. And by the way, Gujarat, that's where a lot of rich immigrants are from. They have a good tech sector in that area. His paternal grandparents were born in present-day Tanzania, and his father's family was part of the Indian diaspora in Southeast Asia, which, by the way, huge balls on Indians moving into Africa for economic opportunities, honestly. But, like, that's kind of crazy. Mamdani lived in Kampala until he was 5. When his family moved to Cape Town, South Africa, in South Africa's Western Province, he attended St. George's Grammar School in Mowbray, while his father taught African studies at the University of Cape Town. The family then moved to America, settling in New York City when Mamdani was 7, and he was raised in Morningside Heights. He was described his upbringing as privileged, saying, I never had to want for something, and yet I knew that was not in any way the reality for most New Yorkers. Mamdani attended the Bank Street School for Children on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, where he successfully ran as the independent candidate in a middle school mock election, adopting a platform of equal rights, anti-war that proposed spending money on education rather than the military. In 2003, he lived and attended in Kampala for a year when his father was on sabbatical there. His father was working on the book Good Muslim, Bad Muslim, which I would actually like to read, and Mamdani's paternal grandparents and aunt helped care for him. Mamdani graduated from the Bronx High School of Science in Kingsbridge Heights, where he unsuccessfully ran for student body vice president. Mamdani then attended Bowdoin College in Brunswick, Maine, where he co-founded the school's chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine. He graduated in 2014 with a bachelor's in African Studies. So he's the sociological bachelor's having nerd of a sociological professor and a filmmaker. Like, I'm just going to check out his mom real quick. I'm not going to take a look at it. I just want to get a vibe. I want to get a vibe for how rich his mom is. Indian American filmmaker. She did Kama Sutra, A Tale of Love, Mississippi Masala, The Namesake, The Golden Lion winning Monsoon Wedding, and Salam Bombay, which received nominations for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film and BAFTA Award for Best Film Not in the English Language. So I have, I don't know. She's successful. I don't know how successful. Mira Nair net worth. It's not publicly listed, so they do well. They're not multi-millionaires, but they were able to live in Manhattan, which means that they're millionaires, right? They're rich, but they're not that rich. You know what I'm saying? All right. Anyways, the whole point of that is that Zoltan is not some working class champion. He's a theater kid raised by progressive parents, and God bless him. God bless the theater kids. Okay. Now, when it comes to Vaush, his content is so lazy, and he's throwing red meat to his audience. So instead of then getting them ready for what's coming in the midterms, and I don't know, throwing out a fascist regime at the ballot box so you don't have to do it with guns, he's bitching about corpo Democrats. Awesome, Vaush. Thank you.
Relevant in this case. One of the things that your poll also showed is that nobody wants an untethered, unhinged Donald Trump, which is why the message should be about a rubber stamp Republican Congress, because they want a check.
That's great. Okay, that's enough. So I can't stand over and over and over again listening to political being talked down to and provided political advice from people who just keep losing. like over and over. They just keep embarrassingly losing, like the most unpopular the party's ever been. And I have to sit here and listen to these people condescend to me. No idea what they're doing. Or, well, more likely they know what they're doing isn't effective, but it doesn't matter. Has he been drinking? No, Rahm Emanuel.
Oh, you love the sweeping. LB is like, everybody knows this. Why are you attacking him on this? And then all the comments around LB are like, wow, I never knew this. Thanks for sharing.
Bill just talks like that. Blind faith to checks and balances is gone. Yep. But it doesn't matter because they don't care. They don't care. Got to get worse before it gets better.
All right. Anyways, that wraps up the Vaush segment. So what do I have to say about Vaush? I'm disappointed. I'm just gonna say it like it is. I'm disappointed. The Vaush that I knew, the Vaush that I miss, the old Vaush. Okay, take the Kanye West song where it's like I miss the old Ye and put new lyrics to it with Vaush. You know who I miss? I miss the Vaush who was a take all comers debater, who had schizo Discord debates, who did call-ins, who found crazy right-wingers and fought them, who was a passionate articulator of systemic racism in an interesting and insightful way, who was a passionate articulator of intersectionality and socialism in an insightful and intelligent way. I miss the anti-Fortress Arc Vaush. I miss the Vaush that wasn't a pussy. I'm just going to be real. And so watching his fall from grace, which, by the way, I just stopped engaging with his content because I saw him effectively back away from the content that I was interested in. But watching him back away from the content that I was interested in and then become a fashion bro, lazy, React Andy streamer who half-ass reads headlines, gets himself pissed off, goes on a crazy hyperbolic rant, then gets confused, and then posts that as content, that's fucking embarrassing. That's sad. This is the downfall of Vaush. What a fucking sad state of affairs. This is your champion. This is your hero. That sucks. Thank you to the donors. Thank you to the chat. I hope you have a beautiful and wonderful day. We will have more fire content for you tomorrow. And yeah, of course. Love you guys too. Have a good one. Bye now.